Hi guys, welcome along to the next episode of the big interview series. Delighted to say that I'm joined with, I don't know, would you call yourself a star of GB hockey at the moment? Tess
No, I would
Howard.
not.
She probably doesn't like calling herself a star, but considering where you started off, it's a pretty whirlwind experience. Having just read all the stuff that I needed to read up on, doing a bit of research as well in terms of getting prepped for the interview as well. You went from England under 16s to England under 21s in 2 years. You couldn't have expected that, surely.
Yeah, no, it was all a bit of. To be honest, I haven't really thought about it in that much detail because it's happened so quickly. Like there was no time to like think about what was happening.
So now you've played 34 times in total on the internationally, which is nuts, and you've scored 7 times for the GB as well, which I didn't even realise. So that's actually quite amazing.
I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity.
So for you, the whole journey started back when you were playing rugby and stuff. Was rugby your first sport?
Yeah, Cambridge City, or no, Cambridge Rugby Club. When we were, I just followed my older brother through the rugby training, and then found yourself there along with Fraser and
It's pretty nuts,
some of the other
actually, the amount
boys.
of different people that have actually done quite well, I think, off the back of it. Like, you and Fraser, obviously,
Oh
different
yeah,
sports.
I think rugby just ability to kind of like have that freedom on the pitch. You get mucky, you just get involved. No one was judging you. I think that provided me with all the confidence I needed in sport right from the start. I remember sort of packing my little rugby bag before before going to each training session, making sure I had little snacks and things like that. And yeah, it was such an event on Sundays, like highlights of my weeks normally.
That's brilliant. Yeah, it was. I bet you don't want people to drag out the old photos, though.
Well, I definitely don't
I've
look
got,
like
I've got
I
to say,
look
the
now.
haircut you were sporting back then was quite different.
I mean, I don't think it was even a haircut. I think it was just whatever. My mum wouldn't. I wouldn't let her take a comb to my hair, so it was just whatever was going on there.
What was going on? So, obviously, like you say, you really enjoyed rugby, and I can't remember what age group were we when you stopped. Under 11s, I want to say,
Yeah, I think under 11,
because that was
right
when,
before it got
yeah, when you couldn't
full
really play,
contact.
because you couldn't really play 15 aside or above a certain amount aside if you were a girl in a boys side, could you? So
Yeah,
that was kind
yeah.
of when you had to make the decision of there wasn't much girls rugby around, so you went to hockey, and was hockey always on the agenda as well?
Well, it was funny because I joined Cambridge City Hockey Club just by chance because my mum said, "Why not just go along on a Sunday?" And I was upset because it was at the same time as rugby, so
Yeah.
I had to make that choice. And then when I started playing, I really enjoyed it, and then I guess the rest just kind of started happening.
Yeah. So Cambridge City, who were your main kind of who made you, I suppose, fall in love with hockey? Because I can imagine you're very much infatuated with the sport now.
Very much infatuated. That's a good description. Yeah, so my first coach was Mike Mitchum. He still runs Cambridge City Juniors, and at the same time I was playing it for St Faith's, and I had John Welsh there, and I remember him pulling me aside at one of our tournaments and saying, "Yes, you're a machine, and I need you to work on full cylinders right now," and think that kind of stuck with me as what I loved about the sport, the team aspect and the individual aspect as well. So it's got everything. I mean, that's why I love it so much, I think.
Were there any players in particular at the time, kind of internationally or at club level, that you looked to base your game upon as well? Because you're a midfielder, obviously, from what I've read, quite energetic, quite kind of want to be everywhere on the pitch, getting involved in every single little bit of play you can, and a keen eye for goal as well, according to the GB hockey website as well. So, yeah, were there any
Yeah,
players in particular?
I think kind of when I became aware of the hockey scene was when I was a bit older. When I first joined Cambridge City ladies side, the fours. I just kind of looked up the threes, and then when I was in the threes, looked up to the seconds, and I was terrified of joining the first when they finally like invited me along to training, and then I realised that there was there was so much more than just kind of you rocking up each day and playing hockey. Like there was a whole world of international players, and that's where I came across the fact that it was on TV sometimes, and so I used to watch that. I became obsessed with the GB team. Embarrassingly, my dad got me it wasn't a real one, but it was a signed poster of some of my now teammates on there.
Oh wow! So that must be something that you get grilled about in the changing room.
Yeah, they do. But to be honest, I was fangirling them until like 2 years ago. So, well, still do in some respects, but no. So like players, I'd say like Alex Danson and Sophie Bray. Early on, I was impressed with the way that they to the field. Like they weren't afraid to score to get on the floor to score, and those sort of really throwing themselves. Like Alex Danson is notorious for her backhand, and I loved the character that they had on the pitch, and that really inspired me. Yeah. Would you
say to play for your country like you do now, was that the goal right the way through, or was it kind of something that just popped up because you turned out to be quite good at it and just put everything into it that you could? Because obviously from the rugby side of things, you'd always put 110% in from what I can remember. And to be honest with you, looking back at it now, you were probably one of the people that you didn't want to tackle or have tackled or have tackled me, because you actually just put everything into it. And for a girl, you were quite more of a boy than a girl.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I was a boy until I was probably 12. Yeah, I think it's funny because when I started playing hockey and I realised that there was a pathway to England under 16, that's what I first understood, that you went from county to regional to England. And that was my only aim, was to get to the under 16 England team. I thought that would be brilliant. And I'm not really sure why. For some reason, it's something that I really wanted to do. Then, because everything happened so quickly from when I went under 16 onwards, the next 2 years, I was just loving the game so much. And for some reason, putting in all the effort, all the fitness, extras, I don't know why I was so driven, but it wasn't to get to the GB team. It was just to see how good I could become.
Yeah.
And that's still sort of my aim. But then I went to the World Cup, the Women's Hockey World Cup. It was held in London in 2018 in the summer. And I was involved in the under-23 setup at the time. And I went to that tournament and sat each side, went to as many games as I could. And then for some reason, just something had changed inside of me. And there was 18 months until Tokyo. And I just felt like, why not? I'm just going to go for this now. Something just changed inside of me. And
you wanted to play for GB, and you were very much kind of like, this is my aim now, straightforward. Nothing's going to stop me getting there.
So Alex Danson was on the side of the huge stadium stand, and I thought, wow, hockey has like got here, the stage where we have like 10,000 in the crowd. And I looked at the players on the pitch and I was so impressed with the way that they were performing. Like some of the players in the international side, like from Argentina and Holland, I still am like idolizing them, and I thought I would love to see how good I could become, sort of thing.
So in games with GB, have you come up against players where you've looked up to them like for so many years, and then you've suddenly had the ball and you've got the ball past them, you think, oh wow, I'm pretty good at this then?
Yeah, definitely tackling your heroes is quite fun, or getting past them. But so my first tournament was in November 2018. It was the Champions Trophy, and that's the top 6 teams in the world. So it was quite straight up. It wasn't like a friendly against
You're not going to play a friendly today, Tess. You're going to go and play against the best teams in the world, and you'll stay like, right, okay, cool.
And they put me in a screen, which is a like midfielder position. So you're you're up against all of the pressure from the opposition, and you have to try and get the ball out a lot, and try set up attacks. And I was like, okay, wow. So I've just jumped straight into the deep end. And I remember playing against, specifically against this player called Ava de Goad, who is just been voted Hockey Federation's Player of the Year.
So the best player in the world at hockey.
Basically the best player in the world. And my mum captured this brilliant photo of us back because we were both the midfielders. And I look back at it now and I'm like, that was truly a moment where I felt like I had made it. But then I realized I hadn't made it until like I could actually perform and give my best on the pitch.
Yeah.
Because it's quite difficult when you're playing against it's people you think are so much better than you to play well. So that's something I've had to learn.
Absolutely. So you've played. So all the games that you. So actually, no. I'm going to go all the way back. So you talk about that England under-16 pathway first of all. That was kind of the main aim when you were at a certain age, and then kind of how do you? Is it the normal selection process? So there's scouts that come down, watch your play, and things like that. Because obviously within football and rugby, the two main sports that I kind of look at, there is a really clear scouting system. But obviously, I suppose there could be from hockey. I just haven't heard enough about it to understand it. And for anybody else who perhaps doesn't understand it as well, who could be watching, what is the process?
Yeah, so it starts with your club or your school when you're young, and so they would be forward for county trials, and then at county you have a series of training, and then you have a tournament sort of at the end of the year, and you get selected from that with scouts for the regionals. And it's the same process. For the regionals, there's an inter-region national competition called Futures Cup, which is quite a nice name to it.
Yeah.
About the future. And I heard about this when I was about 13, and I was like, there's no way I'll ever get to Futures Cup. This is incredible. Anyway, so they play in this 5-day tournament, stay over, and they have all of the England selectors there for under 16, and there's a separate tournament for the under 18. So those are the two tournaments that you basically get scouted from. But then once you're in the England system, so once you've like made it through all the different England trials, you can sort of be able to skip stages. You don't have to go through all of the county regional. You just become an England player, and there are England academies around the country that you can go and train. So in my first year of doing it, I was under 15, and I was selected for the first assessment camp at under 16. But I wasn't selected to get through to the actual England team. I didn't think I was like good enough to be there, and there was a lot of like psychological stuff going on. But I got into the academy, and there was one that was based in Cambridge, which was like very fortunate. But I was playing with girls who were 17, 18, and I think that was probably the first time I had really been stretched.
Yeah.
As a hockey player, and they had one player who was called Meg Crowson, and she was in the under 18 England team, which I was just like, huge admiration. She's become a good friend of mine now. I remember she got to play with the boys because she was too good to play with the girls, and I thought my aim is going to be try and put in one day be put and play with the boys, and the next year I was put with the boys because they were so much faster and more physical, and I loved that. I felt like that's kind of how I wanted to base my game, was actually more of a boys type, which probably comes back to the rugby side.
Probably. You probably understand the physicality of sport a lot more than most girls would have done at the time, because obviously you look at, I myself looked, I suppose subconsciously took a bigger look at PE and stuff when I was in secondary school, and us boys were always throwing ourselves into anything, even sports that we didn't like particularly, hockey and stuff like that, when we kind of be out there freezing cold in the gloves. You'd have the footballers who were kind of like, oh, for God's sake, we're playing hockey, why can't we just kick a ball about? And like me, I was kind of like in between football and rugby, because I loved football, but also I loved rugby as well, and was quite good at rugby, not so good at football. but I just enjoyed both, and I was very much kind of there, kind of looking at what all my mates did, but also kind of looking at like the girls groups and kind of like they're all just standing there really shivering, like they're not like, they talk about women participation in sport, and sometimes it's purely because the girls aren't interested in it, and like with some girls that is the case, and maybe that's because it's a team sport, maybe they're more individual sport based, but if a girl simply isn't interested in sport, they're not interested in sport. That is sometimes the way it goes. But I suppose for an exception like yourself, you were so driven by sport that playing with girls who sometimes weren't interested with it, kind of, or didn't have the physicality to cope with you, was you needed to go off and stretch yourself elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that was certainly true probably at school. When it came to the England side and started to get exposure with the ladies hockey, I understood that it was okay to be physical and to throw yourself into the sport, be as athletic as you could. And I think that probably gave me an empowerment, probably. Probably that kind of started with the fact that I didn't have to be anybody other than myself when I was playing rugby at that young age. I think that's probably where the hardest part of us improving women's participation in sport for young girls is that they feel like they can belong there. I think that's quite difficult
massively.
When you're surrounded by people, and I think it's the social expectation is for you to not play as opposed to play, where I think that's the opposite way for boys. So I'm very grateful to have played rugby at such a young age and to like give me that foundation. And I hope that with more role models in sport for girls, you don't have to be a boy or boyish to play sport. You can be yourself.
Well, I can imagine even amongst your GB teammates, there are girls there who are completely different characters off the hockey pitch to the ones that they are on it. I can imagine there are girls there who, when it comes to an award night, they're buzzing because they get to get all glammed up.
Oh yeah, we all are. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, to be able to
group chats pop off early doors, like, what are you wearing? What are you going to wear? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important for us to see female athletes as like wholesome and not simply so when they're on the pitch they are athletes, but then it's not their entire identity.
One in particular I can think of, to be fair, the biggest hockey profile player now or former hockey, I believe she's retired now, is Sam Quek, and she was really the, I suppose, poster girl for England at for GB at 2012, and was the one who came out on the other side of it really with the highest profile, and eventually is now doing all this various media work. Very good with her analysis of not just hockey, other sports. She's really into her football and stuff like that. She just loves sport in general, and I think that's really for you guys, you girls, sorry, especially, it's probably somebody you can really look up to and kind of go, yeah, we've got hockey, but also we've got a life beyond hockey as well if we do everything brilliantly. Yeah,
definitely. I think the women who are part of that Rio 2016 Olympic gold have really pushed our sport forward, not just in the fact that they made history winning gold, but a lot of those who have retired, like Kate Richardson-Walsh and Helen Richardson-Walsh as well, they have redefined kind of what the next stage of an athlete can be, like with commentating and the media, and like just like Sam Quek has done. Brilliant role models.
So for you going into the England setup, so you talk about England the 16s and you went into England the 21s eventually, did you come across people on the way who gave you these little snippets of advice, people who were perhaps already in the England setup who you came across and stuff like that? And would you ask them questions? Would you get their advice, or were you kind of very much like going to get my head down, just going to get on with it kind of thing?
I love asking questions. So I was that person who was always asking the coach for more advice, or trying to get as much out of people as I could. I was very fortunate at my under 18 level. I had a brilliant coach who's still a mentor of mine called Sarah Kelleher. And she showed me that hockey had all of these, or sport has all of these other attributes like grit, creativity, that you need all of these characteristics to become a good player rather than just like technical ability. That was really eye-opening, because you kind of had it inside of you, but you didn't like label it until she took us through it. So focusing on the characteristics of the player you want to be, I think that really helped me move forward. So we talk about our super strengths, and I think my teammates would probably say my biggest strength is probably bravery, rather than necessarily like quick hands or any of these other attributes that are quite tangible. They would say kind of going for things and trusting instinct, and you have to be brave on the pitch. So that's something that I've learned. But I found it really important to maintain really good relationships with my coaches, and fortunately they become mentors. And my first real mentor was Ross Hayward from Cambridge City, and he came to the Purse when I was 16, so he was also a coach there, and he used to come out on the Astro with me, and I asked him to hit the ball as hard as you can. I thought he would hit it hard. I was not prepared for how hard the first team captain of Cambridge City could hit the ball.
And then you were there like, okay, I've got to get to that level. I've got to hit the ball that hard.
So yeah, he would do little ball scoring things with me. We would just most lunchtimes go out, and I'm so grateful for him spending that time. I guess my final mentor, he's still part. He's assistant coach for the GB hockey team right now, but he took over the development squad, which is like under 23s, under 21, a few years ago. South African, so already we had a nice connection there, and he is brilliant, because he also just looks at the characteristics of a player before their technical ability. He sent me a message today saying, thinking about you. And he calls me his animal, which is probably something I shouldn't be sharing.
Yeah, it's weird, complicated, funny things.
It's funny because I think that sort of characteristic of like work rate probably started with Mr. Welsh, John Welsh, that I was talking about earlier, at Cambridge City, kind of that machine element. So just to answer your question, that is the people who really invest in you as a person, other than just who you are as a hockey player, have really helped me along.
So you talk about South African links. Of course, your dad is in particular South African.
Both of them.
Both your mum and dad are South African. So I can't remember ever meeting your mum personally, but I can remember meeting your dad, and he was a character and a half. To be fair,
he is. He's got a thick accent.
He's got a really thick South African accent, exactly, and you could tell where he was from before you'd even heard his second word. So did that ever occur to you? Have you? Dare I ask, have you had the offer to play? Had you had the offer to play for South Africa beforehand? Were they aware of you and stuff like that? Have you had that kind of thing?
No, I think. Well, so my parents are now they've been British citizens for like 40 years or 30 years. That's not anyway. But yeah. So I don't have a British South African passport. My brother did for a couple of years when he was younger. But I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest, until you've just said it now.
Well, obviously, then it isn't the right thing. Like you've got to look at it. If it hasn't come up before, then it isn't the right thing. I just wondered, because obviously there are so many different things. So you talk about Fraser, who we both played with growing up, and he was Scotland first of all, and then he came to play for England under 16s and under 18s, captained England under 20s, which is nuts in itself. But like he was always, obviously the surname Dingwall predominantly Scottish and stuff like that, and his dad Geordie very broad Scott, and but Fraser typically has always been English. Whether he switched his allegiance to England in terms of his nationality to help his club career, maybe, I don't know. I suspect there may have been some element of that, but obviously you don't know, so you can only just kind of ponder it. But it would have been quite amazing, I suppose, for you to have these different things on the table and go, wow, like what's this all about? But obviously for you, it would always be, because you are British, that's what you'd see yourself as, because you've grown up here. You were you born over here as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you were born here. You've grown up here, so like this is your home. So you'd play for your home country and where your heart is ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely, British through and through. It's the only time I think my South African heritage comes out is when the rugby's on.
Yeah. So I take it you would have watched last year's World Cup, the final between South Africa and England.
Well, it was quite amusing because it was the day of our Olympic qualification match.
Oh God! So you were
Chile.
kind of there, like, I've got to play a game of hockey, but I really want to watch this as well.
Our whole team were like, we must not look at the TV. This could go either way. So yeah, I mean, I felt bad for the team my teammates who actually cared about
England winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were there, like you had both sides of the barrel. You're like, oh, it doesn't really matter for me because I've got heritage of South Africa as well. So my dad's going to be happy if South Africa
it was a day there was 3 wins. Either if England won, in South Africa won, and when we won the Olympics qualification.
Brilliant. So you play now for East Grinstead. How's that compared to Cambridge City then? Is it higher level and stuff like that?
Yeah, so East Grinstead are part of the Premier League, so that's the top. And we came second this year in the Premier League. So it's nice because we're not I wouldn't say we're like a star-studded team, or we're a family club with a lot of the main part of why we play is just to have fun, and so that's what we do every day, or like every weekend, and it shows in the quality of our hockey. It's similar to Cambridge in that respect, in terms of family friendly, kind of the social side of it, but also you want to do as well as you can. We want to win the league. We wanted to win it this year, but it didn't quite happen. So next year we want to win that. But I played for Durham for 2 years when I was back up there. But just because of the travel, like when I first joined the program in late 2018, I was still commuting to Durham, play on the weekend, and it was just so unsustainable. Kind of. I bet
that was really difficult, actually, being at university and also splitting your time trying to play international hockey as well, or play hockey to the best of your ability. So are you still at Durham now?
Yeah, so I've almost finished my second year. So I split my second year over 2 years, split the modules so that I could give both the attention that it needs. And I'm going to do the same, given that the Olympics is now being postponed. You
have to do the same for the third year, rather than you thought you could get the third year done straight off the bat, but now all this coronavirus is stuck in, and you guys are having to be pushed back for a year, which I suppose must be really annoying, actually, because I bet you guys were well on course to kind of give it your best shot.
Yeah, it's definitely thrown a spanner in the works. To be honest, we've been on a journey for the last year and a half. We've had some pretty tough times as a team, in terms of some hard results to take. We got a new coach last January, and so kind of settling in to the rhythm of how he wants us to play, which is the best style of hockey. It's full-blown Australian style attack. And at the beginning of our time, I think we all took the freedom to attack a little bit too literally, and we kind of forgot about the defense part.
Even the defenders would forget about the defense part.
Yeah. But it enabled us like a lot of freedom to learn, and we ended the year with our 2 victories against Chile take us to the Olympics, and it felt like we had turned a leaf and we were on a really good trajectory. So I think actually, yeah, the added time can only make us better. So in that respect, it could be a blessing in disguise.
So what have you all been doing? Kind of, I've seen your videos, kind of home videos, training and stuff. Are you the only one of the team doing that at the moment, or is everybody in their back garden practicing, keeping the conditioning going? You got your own conditioning programs and stuff to keep up with?
So it's been an interesting change because we were planning to peak at our physical fitness in about 3 months' time for the Olympics. So we've done serious conditioning programs for the last few months. So our bodies are very tired. I'd probably say that. So our S&C guys said we can't maintain this for another 14 months. So this period of time you can take to remain fit and healthy, but it's not destroying you. I have kind of taken the other approach, which is sort of like I want to keep going on training. That's why I've gone out and done different exercises with my little brother outside. I think a lot of the girls are doing the same because it keeps you sane. It's nice, the freedom to plan your own session.
So what's it like are you the youngest member of the group at the moment, or have you got younger players amongst you, or are you the youngest?
So I was the youngest when I joined, but what was it, 6 months ago? A couple of my teammates from junior level joined the program as well, and they're a little bit younger than me, just like a few months. So I'm not technically the youngest, but we're there are a few of us there are 3 of us now who are part of it.
What's it like then going into a changing room, I guess, because I suppose when you went in there were girls in there who were Olympic champions, who had won gold, and you're there like, wow, this is really the top tier of my sport. This is what I've been building up to, and now I'm amongst all these greats. So I can only think of it from my perspective in terms of, I don't know, in terms of a rugby perspective, you walk into say you were 18 in 2005, you're walking into the England dressing room and you look at Johnny Wilkinson, Martin Johnson, Jason Robinson, and people like that, and you're just like, wow, okay, hi, I'm your new teammate, kind of thing. Was it kind of similar for you?
Yeah, absolutely. The first training session I had, which was my trials, which were not expected. Well, from the way that I saw it, was not really expected. This happened in October 2018, and they said just come in for training, assessment period basically. And I, on the first day, went up to Holly Pern-Webb, who was the one who took the shuffle, took the penalty, score, to win Olympic gold. Stuck out my hand, shook her hand. Hi, Holly, I'm Tess Howard. Nice to meet you. And I swear, probably everybody just died of embarrassment. But that's kind of like the way I went about it, other than kind of like trying to be cool and like not really acknowledge it. I just introduced myself with I'm quite a formal person when it comes to introductions. But I mean, during the session, because the way hockey is, because it's a team sport, and I'm naturally quite into the camaraderie of hockey. That's what I absolutely love it, the encouragement of each other. I just felt, for some reason, comfortable enough to encourage Laura Unsworth and Sophie Bray as they were like making passes to me and things like that, and it just kind of happened quite naturally. And then when they told me that I was going to join the team and go to China for that first tournament, which they said was a possibility but probably unlikely when they first gave me the trials, for some reason it just kind of like felt right. I was very fortunate that there were some members of the team who really looked out for me for that first bit. I mean, obviously they're going to be people who might feel threatened, things like that, but there were some really important people. And actually, this is quite a funny story. So there's this thing called a welcome ceremony, which I thought was like really quite formal. It is formal, but I was told that I could make a speech. Basically, they welcome you to the squad and they give you your shirt and a notebook, and they explain the values of our squad, inspire the future, be the different, create history, which is our mantra, and then we have values underneath that to help our culture. Anyway, I was told I was going to make a speech by Holly, the captain, and so I'd been preparing the speech for like a week. And little did I know that normally people just like stand up and like say thank you, and that's their speech. What I did was like a 10-minute spiel monologue about how I was so grateful to be part of a team with such powerful women, and that we were gonna reshape sport anyway.
Oh my god.
And I didn't realize it was going to be so amusing. Everybody was like cracking up during it.
And you were there like, I've generally done this. Can you stop laughing?
Yeah.
And then obviously you get told at the end, yeah, you were just meant to say thank you.
Yeah.
So the captain's throwing you under the bus, which starts a good relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change it. I think it summed up quite nicely how my transition into the team.
So, if you don't mind me asking, the kind of, obviously, the financial side of other sports like football, rugby, you have clear kind of professionalism, I suppose it is. Obviously, being a GB player, you are classed as a professional athlete, and you are classed as an elite athlete within your sport. But with East Grinstead, do you get paid to play? How does it work, if you don't mind me asking?
So, as GB athletes, we're part of the very, very lucky to be part of the national lottery funding. So that's from the UK sport and the UK government, and they call it their grant, basically, to help with your living and your like food and other benefits that are surrounded by that, and that more than covers what you need to live, which is really good. It kind of like supports us all living in that area. Then you can get sponsorship deals with your stick sponsors. So my stick sponsor is Grays, and once I became a senior international athlete, we had the discussion about how they would support me if I was going to stay on with them, those sort of things. And then into clubs, some clubs have the financial backing to provide their international players with some funding. Fortunately, East Grinstead provides some funding to help with all of the travel, just south of London.
Yeah.
And I live North London, so there's a lot of commuting. But yeah, they provide some financial help there. But yeah, it's quite difficult to manage your finances. You definitely have to be smart about it. And I guess as we're sort of commodities as athletes, you have to be quite smart.
So you say you're living in North London. So are you living with your parents there at the moment, or are you by yourself, or how's it working?
So the family still lives in Cambridge.
Sticking to the roots, love it.
Yeah, of course. So BB hockey train full time. So that's 4 days a week at Bisham Abbey. So that started a couple of years before the London 2012 Olympics.
To really push on towards that home Olympics, I'm guessing that was a big thing, big target.
Yeah, the women there, so that was pioneered by Kate Richardson-Walsh and Alex Stanton, who have been flagships for the sport, but they all really pushed to be able to be funded and train, and that's kind of what led to their bronze medal, I think, ability to train every day, and then also to the gold. So because the national lottery funding is all about the Olympics, that's why we're kind of funded to win medals at the Olympics. Anyway, so we all train there at Bisham Abbey throughout the year. And so a lot of people live around their local area. So that's where I live with a teammate of mine.
So who's the teammate that you're living with at the moment?
So I live with Lizzie Neal. She joined a few months after me. She joined in January 2019. She's the same age as me, and she's at Loughborough University. So we're on the same sort of. She's a good friend. We kind of grew up through the system together. So it's
you're very much in the same position as well. You're having to balance a lot of different things in your lives as well. So I suppose it can be a shoulder to cry on as well at times when everything's going a little bit downward as well.
Yeah, it's great to have that, to be able to share the same experiences. We've had a lot of fun living together this year, which has been nice.
So, yeah, actually, that was going to be my next question. Who's the I don't know who frustrates the other the most within the house then, or within your flat or the setup?
We're pretty compatible, actually. We're very. I think she must think I'm a bit mad because I like to decorate the house with a lot of African sentiment. So our living room is like walking into Africa, basically.
I really like all the like the wood ornaments and stuff like that.
Yeah, the paintings, the African drum, anything to get the feel like home.
Wow, that's quite amazing. So, oh god, I can't remember where my next question was going to go. So actually, I was going to this. Obviously, you're an athlete now. You're an elite athlete. You have been for the past kind of 2.5 years. It's a really interesting one when you get to that level. Who's the most famous person in your phone book?
In my phone book?
It's an interesting question.
Oh, well, I don't know. Choosy. There's probably not very many famous people in here. You're probably the most famous now.
Yeah, well, you'd hope.
No, I'm joking. I'm not actually joking. I don't know. I guess some of the Olympic gold medalists in.
That's not a bad place. That's not a bad place to start.
But I mean, I just call them my friends. So
exactly, but that's even funnier that you just call them your friend as well. You might. Do you ever kind of pinch yourself and just like, am I going to wake up at some point?
Yeah, I think at the beginning I felt that way, but when you've been through like heart-wrenching experiences on the field with those players, and nothing more than like your soldiers together, you know, on the battlefield.
Absolutely.
It's so special to. I don't know. It's funny. I someone asked me like, when do you know you're kind of in the team, and I said, when you bleed for the team and they bleed for you, like sometimes physically bleed. Like I have had a lot of blood in the game, but that sort of.
Can imagine a few sticks to the face as well, that kind of thing, balls to the face. Yeah. It's physical and sort of like metaphorical when they know that you've given it. Then I think there's a sort of like acceptance. But now it just kind of feels normal. Yeah. So I can imagine if you cut you open right now, you'd come out in blue, white, and red.
Yeah, probably.
It's been really amazing to talk to you for these last 40 minutes or so. Hopefully, we'll keep in contact over the years, which no doubt we will, and stuff. But to see where you'd gone from, I don't know, I suppose this really, what I felt was a talented rugby player, albeit a girl who you knew wouldn't stay for all that long because she couldn't. The rules prevented her staying for all that long. But you found a path in a different sport, fell in love with that sport, and now ultimately you're playing at the top end of that sport, which I think from everybody's perspective who's known you over the years, there's no proud. I think a lot of people are going to watch this and be like, oh wow, this was Tess who used to play at Cambridge Rugby Club, and they'll be like, wow, that's a really proud achievement. I think that, and I don't think the club Cambridge have they spoken to you in the past and stuff about what you've achieved and stuff like that. I can imagine they probably haven't.
The rugby club.
Yeah.
No, not really.
It's just
but Cambridge City Hockey Club.
Of course, yeah, Cambridge City Hockey Club have, because that was kind of your development there. So I can imagine they're very proud of you as well.
Yeah, I absolutely adore them. They have the funniest social media presence. They post the most randomest things about me.
Random facts of the day about that. So how many GB players have they produced over the years? Have they produced quite a few, or are you one of the kind of exceptions?
So James Aubrey, who is a few years older than me, he was part of the GB setup. I think, he came from Cambridge City. I'm not entirely sure where he is right now, but the club were fortunate to get Helen Richardson Walsh as their one of their coaches. That's pretty exciting. I mean, I'm not really sure. Maybe if you go back, there's Olympic Dave who is notorious, and I remember Olympic Dave, who is got to be in his 80s now, but still comes out the summer hockey during the summer. Wow. I remember him. So he's a big role model, definitely.
So looking ahead to next year, you don't want to put maybe a label on it, or maybe you do. Is it gold? Is that the aim?
Funny when you ask me what the aim is for next year.
Playing some hockey, maybe, after all of this.
Yeah, that's the first thing. I think the team has the potential to win gold. I genuinely do. If we all put in the work and we all become the best hockey players we can, at this time. So I've had to realise that this is a journey for myself and for my teammates, and we're all gonna peak at different times. But if we can we'll find our groove, and if we find our groove, then we can. I truly believe we can beat anyone. So, and anything can happen on any day. Rio proved that. So, yeah, let's put a label on it. We want to go for gold in 2021.
Weird to say 2021. Tess, thank you so much for speaking with me. I am going to do the spiel now. If you liked the video, drop a like, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and all that various good stuff. It's just a bit of stuff to get me on my road to hopefully a good career in broadcast journalism. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But Tess, thank you very much for coming on and speaking with me. I really appreciate it as a friend and as a pal down the years. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing your elite experience. And hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Niall. You've been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it.
Cheers, Tess. Take care.
Thanks, Niall. Bye.